as the only Tennessee YouTube channel who thoroughly covers football, basketball, Lady Vols basketball, and baseball, it's very interesting to me that we know Tennessee football's 2025 schedule before we know Tennessee baseball's 2025 schedule, which they start in about 2 months now. But on the SEC network tonight, the 2025 SEC football schedule was released. We know Tennessee's full schedule at this point. They'll have 7 home games, 4 road games, 1 neutral site game along the way. And people ask, well, why do we continue to play these neutral site games? I'd rather just go on the road and play them. That makes literally no sense to me. None at all. You're trying to put a footprint. There's kind of a rotation of where Tennessee keeps playing. Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, not in that specific order. That's your 3 big recruiting hotbeds. Why would you not, instead of going on the road for a 5th game, play that neutral site game in a recruiting hotbed? Somebody who, there's numerous people who don't like it. You got to explain to me why that's not a positive for Tennessee. But here's what we know. Tennessee's 2025 schedule has been released. The only thing we're going to be looking at this point in time is the time of those games. Tennessee will start the season August 30th in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta versus Syracuse. Tennessee leads that series 3-0 all time. Based on the way Syracuse has finished the season, they knocked Miami out of the college football playoff. Maybe a little bit of a tougher game than we may have expected at one point. Fran Brown, former Georgia assistant, is the coach up there, doing a great job. Expect that to be a pretty tough game, but I still like Tennessee's chances in that game. I like what Tennessee's bringing back next year. Now, there's a long way to go with the portal coming up. Who are they losing? Who are they adding? That's going to be the big story along the way. Tennessee, for a fact, starts in Atlanta August 30th against Syracuse. September 6th, home opener versus ETSU and Knoxville. Here's where it gets interesting to me, because the last few years, this game has been later in the year. Normally, this specific game has been years ago. Back in the 90s, it was early in the season. Then it shifted to middle of the season. Then it went to late. That's Georgia and Tennessee. September 13th, we're back to where it was back in the 90s. Georgia comes to Tennessee September 13th. To me, for Josh Heupel and his squad, this team, to really get to that next level, this is their kryptonite. You've got to get Georgia at some point. Georgia will not be on the schedule for 2026 and 2027 unless you were to see them in the SEC championship or the college football playoff if you were to get there. To me, if you don't see Georgia again this season, which is the only way to see them based on what I've seen, is going to be the national championship game. If you don't see them this season, next year, if you're Josh Heupel on that staff, to me, if you're going to get over this hump, this is the game. You've got to figure out how to beat them. You're getting them early in the season. Can you get them next year in what should be a very talented Tennessee football team next year? That's pretty interesting to me with it. September 20th, UAB comes to Knoxville. September 27th, Tennessee goes on the road for their first SEC conference road game at Mississippi State. That's a pretty good one to start off with based on how they did this year. Now, what will Mississippi State look like next year? There's a good possibility Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma quarterback from this past season, does follow Jeff Lebby to Mississippi State. We'll see how that plays out. I know he's visiting Auburn as well. But Mississippi State, September 27th on the road. Tennessee's off October 4th. Here's one to me. If I'm Tennessee, I've got it circled. October 11th, Arkansas comes to Knoxville. you need to have get back and revenge on your mind in that game. You shouldn't have lost that game this year. I said it at the time. Tennessee lost to what was not a good team. Arkansas fans, you would have thought it was 72 Dolphins, the way they come in here and talk to me, tell me they were going to be 10-2 and blah, blah, blah. No, they did nothing after they beat Tennessee this year. When Sam Pittman and Arkansas comes to town on October 11th, if you're Tennessee, you need to annihilate them at that point. Third Saturday in October, October 18th at Alabama. This is a real rivalry. Again, it wasn't for a while. 2022 really reinvigorated that rivalry. 23, Tennessee went down, led for a half at Alabama. Second half, the wheels fell off, similar to what happened at Georgia this year. 2024, Tennessee got it back. So in the last 3 games, Tennessee's won 2 of the last 3. We won't go back further than that. Tennessee lost for a pretty good while. It is, as of this point in time, a rivalry. Again, third Saturday in October. October 25th, Tennessee goes to their home away from home, play the little brother up at Kentucky. And it says at the historic Kroger Field. That campus is pretty historic right now because it serves as a second home for Tennessee. I expect nothing less than another win in that matchup for Tennessee because that's a Kentucky program that's not going in the right direction. Stoops has done a lot of good things up there. I think it's Hal Ketchum had the old song, past the point of rescue. The worst thing that happened for Kentucky last season was that they matched Stoops going to Texas A&M. It was kind of like Calipari. It was that point in time for a change. I get it. You know, he's been very successful there. He's hit his ceiling. It's not going to get any better for Mark Stoops at Kentucky. I expect Tennessee to go up there next year and dominate that football game. November 1st, Oklahoma comes back to Knoxville. This year, that game was in September. Next year, it's in the latter part of the season. Tennessee's off November 8th. November 15th, they get New Mexico State at home. November 22nd at Florida. That we saw that was a game changer this year for Ole Miss playing Florida that late in the season. It cost them the college football playoff. There's no doubt about it. It cost them the playoff. They won that game they were in. It's a Florida team that's gotten better as the season's gone along. They'll have their quarterback in Lagway next year. It'll be a tough matchup, and it's in the latter part of the year. Does that benefit Tennessee, though, getting them in the latter part of the season? We'll see. Pretty interesting. Then Tennessee does conclude the regular season November 29th with Vanderbilt in Knoxville. To me, it's a very favorable schedule because you get Georgia and Knoxville early. The two that stand out to me, of course, is at Alabama, at Florida. I feel like Tennessee should run the table other than that. I think just my initial reaction, worst case 9-3. Best case, I think you could go, best case, you could go 12-0. I don't think it's realistic. Not with the SEC, not how it's cutthroat, now how it's beat each other. But the big key for me is, can you get past Georgia and Knoxville? Can you beat Alabama at Alabama? It's not happened in a long, long time. You've not beaten Florida at Florida in a long, long time. The initial reaction says based off history, 9-3. But it's a Tennessee team I think has a lot of positives next season. They're going to lose some good players. Basically the progression I expect out of Nico should negate some losses along the way. Should be fun. It'll be interesting. But it still puzzles me that we know Tennessee's 2025 football schedule before we know their full baseball schedule. And I know VolQuest, some of them said, well, we know the schedule now. It's just not been released. But we don't know the schedule. VolQuest may know it. We don't. So it's not official as of this point. Tennessee Athletics is rolling on. playoffs next Saturday at Ohio State. I've seen something that said game day is going to be there. It's on from here. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you check out, I released a video earlier. Bill Belichick is the new head coach at North Carolina, it looks like. How's that relevant to Tennessee? There's a lot of relevancies, in my opinion. I discussed those in that video. Make sure you check that out. Thank you so much for the support on here. Make sure you hit that like, that share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button as well. It is free. There's no cost to subscribe to the channel. There are the memberships where you can pay per month. There is the Patreon, which is $1 a month, which goes to help the channel. Greatly appreciated. There's super chats, super thanks. They're greatly appreciated as well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. This is Frank. This is the House of Orange Sports channel. Last but most certainly not least, every day is a great day to wear the orange.